March 1922. A small, isolated farm in southern Germany. 6 people live here: a farmer, his wife, their daughter, 2 grandchildren, and a maid who had only just arrived. Within days, all 6 would be dead. But what investigators discovered afterward made the case even more disturbing, because the killer may not have left. In fact, someone may have stayed on the farm for days after the murders. This is the story of the Hinterkaifeck Murders, one of the most chilling, unsolved crimes in European history. The farmstead was called Hinterkaifeck. It sat in rural Bavaria, not far from the town of Grobern. At the time, the area was quiet farmland. Small houses, wooded fields, few neighbors. The farm belonged to a man named Andreas Gruber. He lived there with his wife, Cecilia Gruber, their widowed daughter, Victoria Gabriel, and Victoria's 2 young children, 7-year-old Cecilia Gabriel and 2-year-old Joseph Gabriel. A new maid had also just arrived to begin work. 6 people in total. From the outside, it appeared to be a normal rural household, but strange events had already begun before the murders. But something had already begun. Days before the attack, Andreas Gruber made a disturbing discovery. Footprints in the snow. They led from the nearby forest toward the farmhouse, but there were no footprints leading back out. Someone had approached the house and never left. Gruber searched the property. He checked the barn, the attic, every corner of the farm, but he found no one. Then something else happened. A key to the house went missing, and strange noises were heard in the attic. Footsteps, movement above the ceiling. Someone might have been watching them. The family's previous maid had already quit the job. She claimed the house was haunted. She reported hearing footsteps in empty rooms and unexplained sounds in the night. Eventually, she became so frightened, she left the farm. When the new maid arrived in March 1922, she had no idea what was coming. Within hours, she too would become a victim. On the evening of March 31st, someone lured members of the family into the barn, one by one. Inside the barn, they were attacked. Investigators later believed the weapon was a mattock, a farming tool similar to a pickaxe. The killer struck each victim in the head. First, Andreas Gruber, then his wife, then Victoria, then her daughter. Each victim was killed in the barn, but the horror did not end there. Inside the house, the maid and the toddler were also murdered. 6 victims, 1 killer. But what happened afterward made the case far more disturbing. Neighbors noticed something strange in the days following the murders. Smoke continued rising from the farmhouse chimney. Animals were fed. The farm appeared to be functioning. Someone was still there. Investigators believe the killer stayed on the property for several days, living among the bodies, feeding the livestock, using the kitchen, sleeping inside the house. Then eventually, the killer vanished. The crime scene was discovered days later when neighbors became concerned. The children had stopped attending school. Mail was piling up, and no one had seen the family. When neighbors entered the property, they found the bodies in the barn, stacked beneath hay. The rest of the victims were inside the house. The scene shocked even experienced investigators. But despite the brutality, the killer had left very few clues. Police questioned hundreds of suspects, travelers, neighbors, farm workers, even members of the family. Several theories emerged. One suspect was Carl Gabriel, Victoria's husband. He had supposedly died in World War I, but some rumors suggested he may have survived. Another suspect was a local man with a violent reputation, but none of the suspects were ever proven to be the killer. The case slowly grew cold. Over the decades, many theories have been proposed. A jealous lover, a family dispute, a revenge killing, or perhaps a stranger who had secretly been living in the attic. But the most disturbing possibility remains this. The killer may have watched the family for days, waiting for the right moment, and after committing the murders, simply walked away. The Hinterkaifeck murders remain unsolved more than 100 years later. The farmhouse itself was eventually demolished. The physical evidence disappeared, and most witnesses have long since passed away. But the questions remain. Who left the footprints in the snow? Who was hiding in the attic? And who stayed on the farm after the murders? More than a century has passed, yet the mystery still unsettles investigators. Because unlike many crimes, this one suggests something far more chilling. The killer was not simply passing through. They may have already been there, watching, waiting, living among the family. Until the night, they chose to strike. So now the question remains. Who committed the Hinterkaifeck murders? And how did they vanish without a trace?